At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.
If you love entertainment, current events, and Hollywood, don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today we have a special guest.
Regal Rapstar.
Welcome.
Feel good.
So I love going to the beginning. I always say the beginning kind of charts our trajectory in life, like our little habits that we pick up along the way, follow us when we're into our adulthood. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? And kind of how did you find your way into music?
I grew up of Mexican descent, and my parents were born in Mexico, and we moved to the LA area. And the LA area, is just a giant area, and with so many people, everyone knows it's kind of crazy, rowdy. So we found a little place up the street, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes away, called Pasadena, and we lived there. And I'm born and raised in Pasadena, California, which is in the greater Los Angeles area.
Nice, yeah, Pasadena is great.
Yeah.
So growing up, music was around. You were around music growing up.
Right. I just went blank, but you told me to tell me how the music comes into play. Okay, yeah. Growing up in LA and Pasadena, it's still a little ghetto, but not as much as LA, I grew up around music. I remember in my early ages, Michael Jackson, Thriller, and the Beastie Boys. And then when I was like 9, like NWA hit, and then I hit my teens, and I just remember a lot of music, like like Cypress Hill, Cypress Hill's first albums, and then like the NWA legacy continued, and then that's when the Eazy-E Dr. Dre beef broke out, and then he made The Chronic, and then he introduced Snoop. And then because NWA broke up, so then Ice Cube ended up making West Side Connection. So being from the West Coast, I was influenced a lot by West Coast artists because everyone here we stand up for our artists because we could relate. So So it's kind of hard for us to be East Coastish when we're in the West Coast, right? Makes perfect sense.
Right.
So being a West Coast mentality, and just listening to the radio. I was into movies. I grew up on a busy street. Um, I was into movies, I went to school. So when I started hanging out in the street, or what we call the hood,
Right.
uh, hit hit that's when hit Wu-Tang Clan. And when Wu-Tang Clan hit, that changed the way I looked at music forever.
Mm.
And I was into Wu-Tang Clan, and but I never forgot about the West Coast. So Wu-Tang was a big influence on me, and they made me feel that I could actually do music too. So and I remember, I think a lot of artists were impacted by the Wu-Tang Clan Forever album, I think including Drake.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Forever was a big album that influenced me, and then they continue to drop more albums like Method Man Judgment Day, and they all had, it was like the Beatles were, they make an album as a group and then they make albums as a solo artist. So that was pretty interesting. And like I said, they made me feel like I could actually do emceeing. So um, that's what opened up the door for me. And at the same time, like I was finishing high school and
Mm.
transitioning into being an adult where you had to face a responsibility and wanting to have to have a job. So that's what really just all sandwiched all in and said, hey, you should be a rapper. And that's what influenced me to be a rapper. And then, like I said, I never closed the door on my West Coast artists. I always kept an eye out and still continue listening to them. And then, more music comes out from other artists. There's always the radio. And that's what led me to want to rap. And I was good at it. And then basically that's what I was gonna say something. Yeah, more artists came out. Yeah, I kept an eye on the West Coast still.
Nice.
More musicians still kept coming out. The radio still kept hitting, and then finally, when I got to like my early 20s, that's when I felt that I could
Nice.
actually carry this out and not only as a dream but as a reality.
Right, exactly, exactly. And you're doing that. You're living what the seeds that you planted over the years. You are a artist. Um, Tell me a little bit about your rap name, like your artist name. Where did that come from? And like I really like it. It's different.
Okay, so my nickname is Regal.
Okay.
So so when when I was growing up, hanging out, like, already old enough to drive and stuff like that, there was a very famous, popular car amongst the gangsters called the Buick Regal,
Nice.
which is usually turned into a lowrider. So my name Regal, I adapted.
Lowe's knows how to set off your July 4th with savings. Right now, buy one, get one free on select one-coat coverage interior paint via Visa gift card rebate. Plus, get two select 2 or 2.5 quart red, white, and blue annuals for just $10. Hurry, these July 4th deals won't last long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for more details.
And adopted the Buick Regal and changed my name to Regal.
Mm,
So my rapper name is actually Regal.
nice.
But my first mixtape when I started Regal Records was the name of the album was called Rapstar.
Nice.
So when I went to go push that as my beginning, that really was my real beginning, my first mixtape. Regal, artist Regal, album named Rapstar. It was a real album. It was a mixtape, and that's how I started with that mixtape. And from that album came my next mixtape, and that's when I changed my name to Regal Rapstar.
Nice. Very nice. Um, you know, I love the journey of an artist. Like I feel like sometimes some people like they self-taught, they go to school. There's so many places, like so many ways to learn how to get into the business. I mean, YouTube is like YouTube University nowadays. I've heard a lot of people just go on there to look for just advice or how to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. Well, what is it that, how did you get into like as far as like music goes? Was it someone, was it school? Was it like self-taught?
Right, exactly. You said it right there. Self-taught, self-taught, and then not only that, but when I realized to myself, I'm a self-taught musician. That's when I said, hey, why don't you have both the roads, and why don't you do some schooling and some research and some books? So I'm also like book taught, where I took classes and I learned about music
Nice.
as a study. So I have right now I kind of have like both fields.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's the more knowledge you have, the better, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. I have a fun question. If you could be managed by
Hmm.
any artist, living or dead, who would it be and why?
I've always been an artist who believes that I have the caliber to be a Dr. Dre signed artist.
Nice.
That's my main person who I think that I would make a good combination with, because like I said, I'm Mexican, which means I'm Latino, which means I'm Hispanic. So if he signs a Latino artist, that'll be a first time under his belt. And if I was to be like a pop star like Eminem,
Yeah,
that would really hit. That would really rock the nation right there.
for sure, for sure. No, Dr. Dre is he's definitely the one of the greatest to ever do it, his caliber and his roster is absolutely insane,
Yeah.
down from Kendrick Lamar and all the people like that. Question about the whole Kendrick Lamar situation. I'm sure you heard about it with the Drake
Mhm.
situation and all that kind of went up in the air. Do you think that it was a healthy rap beef that they had? And did you think that rap or hip hop needed that kind of, I don't know, fire?
Not like us. I
Yeah.
mean, we just it happened. It's not something that me or you could even say or do. We're just speculators. But I just think that for whatever reason it did happen. But one thing's for sure is that when you have two powerhouses going head up, that's a big brawl. That's gonna
Right.
create some attention. That's like Mike Tyson versus Holyfield. Two big this is two big giant things, two big giants going head up. So that's gonna get some attention and get some people wanting to see that Mike Tyson versus Holyfield. They want to see two big
Yeah.
powerhouses going head up. That's one thing that I would say, just because I didn't know you were gonna ask that, but that comes to mind, and I think I'm hitting around the money with that
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
saying that by saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, this it's very interesting because like I was wearing an OVO hat, a Drake's hat one recently somewhere in California, and somebody was like, "Why do you have that on?" It's just like, really, is it that bad? Is it really that bad?
Yeah. So it's kind of like a West Coast East Coast beef where you don't say anything, they won't know where you're from. But if they ask you, hey, so where you from? And you're like, oh, the East Coast, and then they happen to be some kind of West Coast, like, hey, East Coast, West Coast beef, they might hit you up in that way too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back in the day with the East Coast, West Coast beef.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Like those beefs back then. I find it like now it's just you don't really hear about beefs like that, but this was definitely a new one for the books. Because I mean, growing up, you would hear about the Tupac and the Biggie and
Yeah.
all those people back in the day. But yeah, it was definitely something very historical moment, I think, for a lot of hip hop artists like yourself, people that are just in the music industry. Um, what was like the process of creating coronavirus?
Oh man, if the coronavirus is based on a true story,
Uh-huh.
it's like, imagine imagine we all went through the coronavirus thing, but now imagine what a rapper was was, imagine being a rapper. Like, what was it? What was a rapper thing? What was a rapper doing? What was a rapper? What did it feel like for rap? That's kind of like basically what this captures is like how a rapper was or looked at it or exactly be the rapper during that time.
Right.
That's kind of like what the song and the video saying, and then you're kind of like, hey, this guy's a cool person to have handled that coronavirus thing like that. He's like a comic book. He's like a comic book character. He's like a hero.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a scary thing when it did, when it was, I remember being in California locked in our house. I felt like the end of the world was happening. Um, but we're slowly getting out of it, and it's just great to be on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, great for you to make the song about like, about that. Like, and I think a lot of people to be educated, about this topic because it's still stuff, it's still going around. I mean, it never go away, but
Yeah, it's just something to more insight.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, I have a really good question that I like asking people, and there's no wrong answer, but the three levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you could choose only one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
I understand the question, but I want you to repeat the question.
No problem. So the three levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you could choose one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
Okay, I understand the question now. What's going to influence me in this? Um, I think, well, the thing is, what comes to mind is another answer. I'm going to answer that, but something else came to mind. Is I said it's an accomplishment, but you're saying no, no, you have three options. So I'm going to say, well, I have to pick one of those. Now something that else is okay out of those. Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I'm leaning toward. That's a hard question because it's kind of like they all balance out to be an equal of which you have to be focusing on. So if I'm saying accomplishment, I would probably lean toward respect
Mhm.
because respect would break it down to accomplishment. You being able to be an artist. You're not worried about money. You're worried about people judging you for your art. So that's why I would lean towards respect, and then money and power seem to be like this, almost like the same thing.
Mhm.
But I guess I would lean towards respect. But then, I mean, I kind of want to choose all of them. But but uh, but I would probably lean towards respect, like and how I defined what I mean by that. But like, it's kind of a trick question because money and power are very important also. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
that's kind of like a trick question there.
Yes, no, great answer. Great answer. Um, yeah, it's I always say there's no wrong answer. I think it's what actually works for you, in your journey. I think everyone is going through their thing and want different things, right? And I don't necessarily think power is a bad thing. I think where society tells us if you have power, it's evil, it's bad. But I think if you know how to use it correctly, just as money, you should be okay, and yeah. But I like that answer. Respect is a good answer.
Yeah, something like that.
So, so how involved are you when it comes to making your music? Are you in the producers, like you're in there with the producer? Are you like laying down the beats? Are you like how involved are you in the process of
uh,
creating your music?
I'm fully involved.
Nice.
Um, I'm uh, um, I'm definitely not someone who lets the manager do everything. I'm fully involved, and I try to be I try to be there every step of the way. And if there happens to be another producer, I'm definitely gonna be there with him and be the executive producer without a doubt. And yeah, when it step by step, I'm just fully there in every which way, trying to make the best out of it.
Hmm.
Or if I'm working with somebody, trying to get the best out of that person.
Right. Yeah. I like that. I like that. You know, in this artist, in this journey of being a creative, it or an artist, it can be hard sometimes. I'm curious of, have you ever had those moments where you're like, I think I want to stop. I don't want to do this anymore. And when you get to those moments in your life, how do you get yourself out of that thinking process?
Yeah, what you said was correct. It is very hard, and what gets me out of that is that I'm an artist. That's what I do. Like, you can't not take the blood out of something that's in there. You're gonna destroy whatever it is. You can't take that when something's inside of somebody. You can't take it out of them. So I think that the fact that I'm just an artist,
Hmm.
that's what makes me say, what else am I gonna do? Or that's what I do. Like, that's just what I do. So I can't do nothing else. So that's kind of what keeps me going. That I feel that that's just the person who I am.
I love that. It's just who you are. So it's like in you. So there's no plan B, basically.
Exactly.
A lot of people say, "Oh, well, you have to have a plan B. You have to have a plan B." And I say, "Well, I think if there's nothing wrong with a plan B, but I feel like if you have a plan B, that kind of leaves room for like doubt, like of, oh, I don't really fully believe that I can do this." I feel like you have to be kind of delusional, crazy almost to believe in your own dream. Because I mean, if you think about people like your Michael Jackson, he actually wrote about it in a journal years ago. I think his documentary talking about it when he was a kid. He talked about how he was going to be the greatest artist of all time. And I'm sure people were like, okay, yeah, Michael. Okay, sure. But if you see it for yourself, I do believe you can achieve it. And not being, I don't know, rewired by society, structures of like, oh, well, you're this age. If you're this age, it's too late, or there's just so many ifs. But I think if you just don't listen to the outside noise and you listen to your heart, let God lead the way. Oh yeah, it's there's no way you can stop.
Exactly.
You know. So yeah, I mean, kudos to you. Seriously. Is there anything that you're working on right now that you would like to share with the audience?
Um, I'm not working on anything right now. What I'm doing is promoting if the coronavirus, the song and the music video. That's what I'm
Nice.
working on. That's what I'm working
Nice.
on right
Very cool. The music video, where so did you have a hand in it too? Like as far as cinematography, or you just kind of left it up to the professionals?
now. Yeah, no, I had to direct it.
Nice.
I had to be I had to be the creator of it. I had to be the actor in it. I invented the costume.
Nice.
Um, and I tried to do as much as I could, and whatever I couldn't do, I had to leave it up to somebody else because obviously I can't shoot the video. There has to be somebody shooting it. There has to be someone shooting it, and then there happened to be the owner of the studio that I had to book the studio from. So there was other people involved, but I tried to do as much as I could on my own.
Right. I like that. I love that. You are hands-on artist. Um, do you feel like with AI and all the things that are happening now, it makes being an artist easier? Like back in the day, we didn't have these kind of like things to our fingertips. I mean, essentially, we can create a whole album just on our phones now. Do you feel like it's better, or you feel like there's some pros and cons to this AI stuff?
There might be some pros and cons, but I kind of want to answer your question the way I wanted to answer it before you said pros and cons. Yeah, AI that's what I use to make my video, and yeah, AI is good, and like you said, with computers and all that stuff, we could just work on our own stuff if you have the ability. And like you said, is it a two-sided thing? Well, yeah, if you don't understand computers, it's going to be hard because you don't understand computers. And then before you could just go to a record store or whatever. But you're being taught how to use computers and stuff like that. So yeah, with computers and AI and all that stuff at your fingertips, I think it helps to make it a little bit easier for you to make your art, and that could open some doors for you if
Yeah.
if that's the route that you're taking, where you're gonna have to deal with the equipment to work on your music or your art or whatever it may be.
Right, absolutely. No, I agree with that. I think it's great that we have that. I think it helps cut down a lot of the work, the work that you could like editing wise. You don't have to do so much editing like like we used to. I remember back in the day, I used to like edit all day. There was VHS tapes, but now it's just like things are so better, like digital. Like I embrace it fully, for sure. It makes my job what much easier for sure. Uh, so I like asking this question of like, you get to the pearly gates of heaven. You've made all the money, you've toured, you've done the things that you wanted to do on earth, but when you meet God, what would you want God to say about you and what you've done?
Oh man, that's a tough question, right? Right on the spot. Um, I guess I would want God to say that I was a cool person and I fought hard and I just I was brave and right now I'm finding myself in front of you and I lived my life and I'm not gonna be scared of what's next. I'm just gonna be like thinking what's next.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to that artist out there, that boy or girl that wants to get into music? What would you tell them?
I will tell them that it's tough and it's hard, but um, if you have music in you, or if you happen to find the the right route or the lucky route, you have a chance. You have a
Yeah,
chance.
you have a chance. I like that. That's a great answer. It's a great answer. Where can people find you on social media to follow everything you have going on?
Um, I'm on my social media. My social media is Instagram.com/Regal Rapstar. I also have that's basically my best one, and then also on YouTube you got to check the video out.
Yes, go watch it,
I would,
everybody. Go watch it.
yeah, I would tell them the video Regal Rapstar, if the coronavirus, the official music video, um, on YouTube, which is another social media, and on the internet, of course, on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you stream music, you'll find me, Regal Rapstar, and then of the album I'm promoting right now is F the Coronavirus.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking with you, getting to know your story, and congrats on the song. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Come back anytime.
All right. Okay.
And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time.
Okay. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go for it. What's up?
Um, make sure that you tell people about the F the Coronavirus song and video, and then as I mentioned my Instagram, you can also donate there. So
Okay.
you could donate on my Instagram. Just go to my first post, and that'll let you know where you could donate. So please make sure that you donate. And I had a great time on this podcast. And
Thank you.
that's all for me. If you have any last words, because I interrupted your last words, feel free to mention some more words and wrap this up. And thank you guys so much. And thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. And that's all, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.